So this is the first question. I didn't write it. Assalamu alaikum. We have spoken about inappropriate dress for women. No sequins, no form-fitting clothing, etc. Can you clarify what is appropriate dress? Colours, modest clothing, etc. Some people have understood your earlier lessons to mean that only dark or black colours should be worn and only jilbab, even for young girls. Okay, so first of all, speaking for myself, I make a differentiation between the people who live with us in Jordan and those who live outside the country. So our dress code in Jordan is particular to our social environment, which is a conservative Islamic environment that we can live, and we expect everyone who comes to share their life with us, even if only for a week, to comply to our social environment. So we are trying to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His sake in a way that is beloved to Him, and we don't have a need to compromise our religion. So we're not. We are not under pressure of work. We're not under pressure of a non-Muslim country, and there is no reason for us to try to have taqwa Allah in our environment. So that's what we're created for, and that's what we're doing in our own space. So there is a document called the Zawiya, which is sent as an e-document to anyone who wants to visit or live in Jordan with us, and anyone who wants to come now is sent that document, and Sidi Hijab, who receives the emails of the people wanting to come and visit, will request that you read the whole document and agree to it before you come. So there's no issue about our standard of practicing the deen and what you're comfortable with. So where we are, we require plain colours, doesn't have to be black. This is where we are. Plain colours and white, that you could at least fit half of another person like you in your hijab. Socks, niqab. So that's the basic criteria. And girls who are 10 years old must wear a plain garment, like an abaya, and they may not wear colourful clothing. So in the Hanafi madhab, a child who is 10 years old, boy or girl, has the hukm or ruling of a person who is baligh or mature. And so girls and boys have to be separated from their beds, in their beds at 10 years old. You're obliged to pray at 10 years old. You're obliged to fast at 10 years old. A 10-year-old boy cannot see you without your hijab. So we apply this in our dress code also. And where we are, we require a girl who shows the beauty of a woman and femininity of a woman. She's lost her baby face to now look like a young woman, to wear a niqab. And that is not about age, it's about the development of the girl. So it could be 12, it could be 15. Outside of our community in Jordan, you are required to obey Allah and His Messenger. Ati'u Allah wa ati'u Rasul. So that means that you cannot wear colourful colours that are attractive. So red is not a hijab under any circumstances. Pink, fluorescent pink, is not a hijab. Bright flowers are not a hijab. I once asked one of the sheikhs in Hanafi fiqh that I studied with, about ethnic Muslim clothing. So when I was a student in Egypt 30 years ago, there was a lady in our student hostel. Lived together in Egypt for 3 years in a student hostel of Muslim women from foreign countries outside of Egypt. So we had quite a United Nations in our household. This is before the internet and mobile phones. There was only one telephone in the whole building, and the caretaker, he didn't even have an intercom system. He would call up in the middle of the staircase for whomever there was a phone call. So there were so many Khadijas and so many Fatimas and so many Aishas. Everyone was addressed by their country. So he would go into the middle of the stairwell, and it was a four stories above the ground floor, and he would say, Aisha Ghani. That's about how advanced we were in our technology 30 years ago in Egypt. So there was one of the ladies with us. She was from Juz al-Qamar, means Moon Islands, Comoro Islands. And they wore a hijab like a sheet, but with bright flowers on it. So they would wrap the sheet in a way that only the slits of their eyes showed. So they're completely covered, but with these bright floral cloth. So I said, if everyone dresses like this, isn't it a hijab? He said, no, it's not a hijab, because the colors have to be plain, even if everyone else wears bright colors. The point of a hijab, the word hijab means to make a veil. Hajaba, the hajabani anhu means he veiled me from him or screened me from him. So you're making a barrier or a screen. The barrier or the screen is your feminine beauty. So I don't know how many men are listening to this, but nonetheless, boys like girls and girls like boys. Girls like different things about boys than boys like about girls. So you might like someone who's handsome, but that's not the most attractive thing in a man. Girls like the knight in shining armor. And boys like the beautiful damsel in distress. Very important. They like the damsel in distress, the feminine woman, but they want the beautiful damsel in distress. A lady might like an ugly-looking knight in shining armor because he's a knight in shining armor. He can get away with it. But the boys don't like the damsel in distress that is not beautiful. So, the first thing that a man is attracted to in a woman is her feminine beauty. And that's what the hijab is for. It conceals and veils feminine beauty. So if you're turning your hijab into a new way to enhance your feminine beauty, you are undermining the purpose and point of the hijab. It's not a hijab. A hijab is something plain. It does not reveal the beauty of the woman. So that's pretty clear. So however you do that, it's entirely up to you. We have our special rules for our community in Jordan around the Zawiya because we're trying to uphold a standard, as we were talking about standards on Friday. We don't want to drop the standard. And we're trying to have a standard of taqwa for the sake of Allah. There are millions, it's almost millions, thousands and thousands and thousands of Muslims are dying. They're dying in wars and strife. You live in a home. You never think that you'll be driven out of your home and your home will be destroyed and all your property and business and money and possessions gone. There are thousands or millions of people in this situation in Muslim countries right across the Muslim world. Why? Because we are not obeying Allah and His Messenger. That's why. It's a very clear explanation from the Quran and Sunnah. So without going into the details of it, if you disobey Allah and His Messenger, expect a trial and tribulation in the dunya before the akhirah. So you have no guarantee. There are many people in Western countries today who don't feel secure because of the climate, anti-Islamic climate. So you don't know when the rug will be pulled out from underneath you. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَل لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. Whoever fears Allah, holds Allah in awe, He will make for him a tremendous way out. وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. And He will provide for him from whence he least expects. وَمَن يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. And whoever trusts in Allah, Allah suffices him. So this is a promise from Allah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, Allahu waliyul ladhina amanu. Allah is the wali, the loving friend and guardian and protector of those who believe. So it means believing and applying what you're supposed to do as a believer. And so if you do that, you are under the protection of Allah. So why, where we are in Jordan and in general with the tariqah, why we maintain and insist on these standards is because we are seeing all the death and destruction around us. And ma'adhiratan ila Allah, and we are doing this, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are saying, oh Allah, we want to do what is pleasing to you. Please forgive us and don't punish us. So that's one of the reasons why we are upholding the standards, because we don't want to have a trial and tribulation in our life. It's not the only reason. The main reason is, as we said, that Allah is deserving of our worship and our devotion. But this is an obligation upon you to uphold Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's standards and limits. So every woman, it's very simple. You just stand in front of the mirror and then you look at yourself and say, is this a hijab or is this zina? Zina is embellishment and the dressing up for beautification. You know yourself if it's a hijab or not. So bright colors, sequins, embroidery, a little bit of embroidery if it's the same color is not really an issue. But if you have a lot of embroidery and this, it's not a hijab. So judge for yourselves. Ittaqullah mastata'tum. Fear Allah as much as you're able. So you should be wearing the hijab all the time and not as a suhba or kharabsha costume. So I call it the kharabsha costume. Now, Inayat here, she told me once, I said, how come you're dressed like that? And it was good, it was okay, it was nice. But it wouldn't be what I'd wear personally. And she said, but kharabsha is a special place. And that's true, but, okay, so if you're wearing a long shirt and white pants, it is actually acceptable, provided it's not decorative, and it is white. So, ittaqullah mastata'tum, fear Allah as much as you're able, hold Allah in awe. Stand in front of the mirror and say, am I ready to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the way I appear? Is this, if I was to die, walked out of the street, out, and a car knocked me down and I died, would I be okay with myself that I died in this condition? Across the board, makeup is haram. Makeup is haram. Now, would you like your face to burn in the akhirah? Use your intelligence.